Our guest is Phillies Senior Advisor, International Scouting, and longtime Director of International Scouting, Sal Agostinelli, who joins us from his home, back from the DR this week. Sal, welcome. Appreciate a few minutes. How are you?
Oh, it's great being on, Greg. Always.
So you've been with the Phillies for over 30 years. Start there. You're playing in the Cardinal system. Your first year with the Phillies was 1989. You were a teammate of Mickey Morandini in Reading. Look that one up. How did you end up in the Phillies organization in the first place? And obviously, I'm sure when you came over to Reading, you weren't envisioning another 40 years or whatever in the system.
Yeah. Well, hey, I was pretty fortunate. What happened? You know how life is. It's about being lucky. I was with the Cardinals. I got to AAA. There was a bunch of catchers in front of me. I played like 5 or 6 years in the minors. I got to Louisville, and then that year I wasn't getting a lot of playing time, and I got sent back to AA. And what I did was the following spring training. I'm sorry. Let me
No,
shut
you're good.
this off. Yeah. So the following spring training, Lee Thomas became the general manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, and he was our minor league director with the Cardinals. And all of a sudden, I went at the end of spring training in '89. I was working out with the AAA team. They called me in the office. They said I got traded to the Phillies. So I was like, wow. And then, I kind of drove 10 miles up the road. We were in St. Pete, drove right up there. It was kind of, weird, being with the Cardinals for so long and going to another team. But I knew a lot of the players there because a lot of the, players were, we play against them in spring training a lot. So I got to know them. But it's pretty, and I never envisioned myself going through, playing AA, AAA for 2 or 3 years and then being an area scout and then 97 taking over as director. And now I'm taking over my role right now. So it's been pretty exciting, very fortunate.
A lot of players obviously think about becoming coaches, when their playing career ends. Did you think about becoming a scout? How did you end up in scouting in the first place?
Well, honestly, Bill Giles, when I first came over, because Lee Thomas had thought I was wanted me to stay in development. My first year I coached in '92, and I was kind of like a player coach. Back they don't have them anymore, but I was doing that. So I don't know. Jay Hankins, who was the scouting director at the time, came through, and he was like, "Well, do you ever think about scouting?" I was like, I don't, really know much about it. You know what I mean? So I wound up, listening to me. Said, "Look, I got an area job opened up in the Northeast, and the rest was history." So that's basically how it all went down.
How did you switch over to international?
Um, well, it's a funny story. In 1993, 1993 to 96, I was the area scout in New York City. I did a lot in New York, and I spoke Italian. I grew up in the Bronx, and I played with a lot of ball with a lot of Spanish guys. My minor in college was Spanish, and I have a teaching degree in Spanish. So during the pre-draft workout, I was in the dugout, and Mike Arbuckle, I had him in the dugout. I had a bunch of Spanish guys, and then I was speaking Spanish to them. And he just kind of walked up. He goes, "You speak Spanish?" I said, "Well, I do the best I can." And the next thing I know, he offered me the international job. So I was like, wow, very blessed. So things in life, God works in funny ways.
There's some overlap ish with Spanish and Italian. They're not radically
No,
different. Yeah.
absolutely. It's almost we conjugate a couple of verbs here and there, and it's a lot the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, how did so you've been doing the international stuff now for almost 30 years. How has it changed? What's the biggest way that it's
Uh,
changed over the last quarter century?
well, I wouldn't, just to tell you this, I wouldn't want to be a young guy getting into that business right now. Put it that way. When I started, it was a long, it was a great opportunity for a young scout to really expedite the process of how he becomes a scout. You got a little bit of money. The bonuses weren't ridiculous like they are now, crazy. And you got a really good opportunity to sign a $20,000, $10,000, $15,000 guy and really learn from your mistakes, which you never really do. But the best to your ability. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So now, over the period of time, you know, and we used to sign the guys much older. No one ever made a deal with a guy at 13, 14, 12, like these crazy, you know, numbers. And obviously, the later you sign them, the better chance you have of knowing what they're going to be. I mean, think about it. If we went to the States and made deals with a bunch of 14-year-olds, the
You're going to
attrition
get a
rate
lot
on
wrong.
that, yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's the whole thing. So that's where the whole process has really, really changed. Then on top of it, the money's changed. Everybody has $5 million. So every period, people are spending, five times 30 is 150 and more, and international money. So it's become quite a challenge, because you sign them so young. It keeps you humble, it keeps you making. And then when you get a couple of guys like, Rojas or Ranger or Dominguez or, whoever we got to the big leagues, 2 straight grand or something like that, it just becomes, you know what I mean, rewarding, but it's just more difficult. I feel
It's like a big puzzle, right? Because if you spend 2 million on one player, that's two. If you have 2 guys that are going to cost 2 million each, you might not be able to take both of them. You got to pick one, and then I could take 3 guys at 750 for one guy at
right.
2.2, like that kind of like big puzzle. Like it's a big puzzle, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot of I think, we all try to um conserve our money, um, do the best we can do. Um, if we love a guy, when you put all your, eggs in one basket, like we did with Ortiz that one year, he came out doing really, really well. He had power, but it's not always a slam dunk. The guys have tremendous ability, but as we know, it's difficult to make the big leagues. It's hard. It's not
Sure.
easy.
And you have to make a
Um,
decision when they're 15, and the quote unquote like rubber meets the road for them is going to happen 6 years later at 21, and it's hard to say.
yeah. Well, and then when people hit on a guy like, what they did, Seattle hit on the center fielder there, it's just,
Julio
Julio,
Rodriguez.
yeah, it becomes, like I think we all have enough humility to realize that there's this, I wouldn't say luck involved, because what it is like you said, you try to stay, okay, body type, makeup, ability, just how intelligent they are, where they come from, you know, but what you don't, it's hard to take in consideration is once you give a guy that never had money a couple of $1 million, how they're going to react to it. And you don't find that out till after you give them the money.
Yeah.
That's I think that's where you wind up losing some guys. I think we never had that. In the past, you gave a guy 10 grand, he wasn't a millionaire. He had to work. You know what I mean? And I think it's when you give a 14, when you make a deal with a 13, 14, it's different than when you make a deal with a 21-year-old college guy who's much more mature at that age. You understand? So that's where the difference is, I think.
How have the Phillies have really invested in the complex down there? And I know you said you were down there this week. They had the graduation. What are some of the how have the Phillies made some strides in the international market and the development of young international players?
Well, I will tell you this: with George Valandia, with the help of Dave, I mean the ownership, I mean we've been Middleton and Bucks. I mean they came down for the graduation, which showed unbelievable to John and Pete came down, and Georgie Valandia was down, and Sam Fold was down, and I think what we went from a team that, like, for instance, when you make deals with guys that are 14 years old, what you need to do is have an infrastructure to make sure they stay online all the way through. And, George Valandia came up, we've hired some guys, some trainers to make sure that the kids that are younger have trainers. We have strength and conditioning guys. We have, different guys to make sure that the guys that we're working with, the guys that we have deals done with are keeping their path good. That's number one. Number two, the facility is unbelievable. I mean, it's really, really, with Preston Mattingly at the helm there. I mean, you got a great program. I mean, we have programs on top of programs. We have preparatory programs. We understand more about the age differences and where guys should be at a certain age and their strength and how much agility or how much baseball knowledge, all the things that, because as they progress different ages, I think they need different things. And we have a grasp of, we have a way better understanding of trying to adapt to the challenges that the overall system has against us.
When you started, right around the time you started, you guys signed Carlos Ruiz out of Panama. He was on the first BlueClaws team that Greg Legg managed. That you must have played with Legger at some point, right?
Absolutely, we played double play together. My brother.
He was on that team, and he was an under the radar signing. What do you remember about uncovering Carlos?
Well, the one thing I always do is again, being lucky. This is not what happened is I got a call from Alan Lewis, who was one of the Panamanian Express. I don't know if you ever know that with Omar Moreno. He played in the big leagues. Alan Lewis played in the big leagues with the Oakland, with Sal Bando and all those guys. He was the pinch runner. He was one of the fastest human beings on there. Well, he was our scout in Panama. And when I took over. So they always call me now and then, and I go see his players. So he called me and he goes, I want you to come see this guy. This guy is the best hitter I've ever had. So I got on a plane because I'm a lunatic. I jumped right on a plane, Miami to, Tucumán and Panama City. I had to drive an hour over to another airport, got on a prop plane, flew all the way to David, got off the plane, and I went to this, it had to be 150 degrees on this field down there. And we went in there and it was just Carlos, myself, Alan, and hold on, sorry. Yeah. Alan and the BP thrower. And when I walked in, he was a second baseman.
Right.
So I hit him a few ground balls. First of all, he ran a 7.160, which was okay. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out, So he said, but look, I think he can catch. And he got behind the plate and he had a cannon, and he was throwing real well. He got up and we put a pitcher against him. We had the BP guy and he was hitting ropes all over the place. And then he hit really well off of live pitching too. And anyway, so he was like, can you give me 10 grand? I said, how about 8? And now the rest was history. I mean, we got lucky, and Carl's been a dear friend to me for all these years, so made us all look really, really good. And plus the type of individual he is. I was at a major league tournament about a year ago down there. He took me to his ranch down there. Carlos hasn't changed one bit. He's just the same guy that he was when he was in the big leagues, Great guy.
You couldn't have possibly projected what he would end up doing in his career. I'm sure nobody could at that stage. But when you sign a guy, like an under the radar type like that, or many others, how do you judge success? Is it like get to AA? Is it just advance a certain level? How do you judge whether a signing kind of worked?
Well, the way I look at it is his value. I look at it in value. The guy, like for instance, we traded Meade. We got Christian Sanchez for Meade. To me, that's value. Sixto Sanchez, even though he pitched a little bit, we wind up getting Real Muto for him.
Of course, yeah.
That's to me, top value if they make it to the big leagues. But value also is if a guy really has a really good minor league career and helps our prospects get to the big leagues. You know what I mean? And is a good player. And then the last one is if a guy becomes a good organizational player and he helps us as a coach or a scout in the future. We have many coaches that I've signed. Three-quarters of the coaches, I always tell everybody down in Dominican or Venezuela, I go, I sign good coaches. And basically
Irvis Manzanillo was there, right? Samuel Lisiano was there. I'm sure there are other those guys I remember. I don't play here. But
yeah, you know all of them. Do you know Norelis Martinez? Norelis Martinez, you probably
I don't think he made it here.
How about Valoria?
Uziel?
Yeah, he's there now.
I didn't even know he was there. So what's he doing? Is he in the academy?
Coaching. Yeah, he's coaching at the academy. Yep.
Oh yeah, great guy. One of the all-time good guys that we've ever had. Like if we had baseball camp with the kids, he would do every one of them. He did every ground ball. He'd help every kid. He was great. I'm glad he's still in the organization.
Yeah, I mean, we have a really good. I think we have a really good infrastructure with Volandia and Derek. Is taking over the range right now, and I'm helping him out. So it's really a good situation internationally. I think we're in a really good spot. We just got to do the best we can to get as many good players as we can to you guys up get them through you guys and get to the big leagues.
Sure. What was the Carlos Carrasco story with the parrots and the monkey?
Oh yeah, yeah. How'd you hear about that one? Did I tell you that sometime?
No, when you told the story when you got the International Scout of the Year award a few years
Oh
back.
right. Oh yeah. When it was in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I read the story about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's interesting. Chalal Mendez was a teammate of mine with the Cardinals, who's our cross checker in Venezuela. Well, he was the only scout we had down there at the time, and he called me up. He goes, "I got this really good pitcher. I love him. Got a great body, whole 9 yards." So I said, "Great, let's go take a look at him." So I flew into Caracas, and we drove from Caracas. If you know where Venezuela, it's kind of a rough road. So
Sure.
you're driving all the way out to Maracay, past Maracay, go to Valencia, go to San Felipe. Then finally, 4 or 5 hours later, you get to Barquisimeto. As we were getting to Barquisimeto, right before about 50 miles, we went through this like rotunda thing. And the funniest thing I ever seen is that a guy comes running up to the car. Well, because we had to slow down to make the turn, we had the windows open. This guy comes over and he shoves these parrots in the car. I mean, they had no hair. I mean, they look rugged. And then all of a sudden, he has a monkey on his back, and he's trying to sell us the monkey. And he leans over, and the monkey jumps on Chalal in the front seat of the car, and he goes, "Just give me $100 for the monkey." And I'm like, "What are we going to do with a monkey?" I thought it was hilarious. It was one of them with the curly tail. It was unreal.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Did you keep it? Him?
Oh, no. We just said, get this guy out of the car.
Yeah.
And then we wound up driving home and seeing Carlos Carrasco, and pretty much the rest is history, We got Mike Arbuckle and Williver in the Sam. And at that time, we gave him 300,000. It was a lot of money, but it wound up being a pretty good sign for us,
Yeah, for sure. Ranger and Sir Anthony, I guess they signed around the same time. Ranger's story, though, I think is interesting because, again, I know he was a pretty low budget signee, and he didn't even come over to the U.S. until after like 3 or 4 full years in the Venezuelan Summer League, which I know doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, so the list of players that even make the big leagues after playing 3 full years in the Summer League, not coming over to the U.S. until they're probably 19 or maybe even 20 years old, is really, really short. And not only has he made it, but he's had a great career.
Yeah, he's an impact guy. I mean, he's a good number 3 starter. I'll tell you, Ranger was an outfielder when he came to us. So he had, he was a pitcher, outfielder. Once we saw him hit, we knew that he wasn't gonna, that wasn't. He got on the mound and he had just a loose arm, but it was a crude delivery. The arm worked really clean. And it's funny. I read my report on him, and it's funny. I said if all stars align, this guy could be a really good one. And I say that every once in a while. Once in a million years, you get lucky, and that's truly what it is. It's not that I knew. It's just that he had the body type, the arm work. As you can tell, he's very athletic. The guy, the best fielders.
Tremendous, yeah.
But the thing was that first year he had trouble with his command. But that next year, if you look at the numbers, go ahead. You could probably say it.
He walked like 2 guys in 70 innings.
One. Yeah, okay. One guy. And he had like 80, whatever, strikeouts. It was like some incredible thing. And once he did that and he came over to the States, it was pretty much, but the other thing about Ranger, he has a unique makeup. Like his makeup is, he really, really believes in himself. I learned a lot. I mean, to make it to the big leagues, there's so many negative things that happen. You got to have, really that type. And I don't think everybody has to have that type, not all the same makeup, but you truly got to believe in yourself. When all the negative things happen in baseball, you lose a lot of guys because when things go bad, guys just don't know, when, the quicksand starts coming in, they just can't get out of it. You know what I mean? But Ranger truly believes, as you could tell, people, like, oh man, he's arrogant out there sometimes, but I don't know too many players that are not, you know what I mean, that are good.
Nothing bothers him. It just goes. They'll just let it whiz right on by. Nothing bothers him whatsoever.
Exactly. And same. And then you get a guy like Sir Anthony, who, in my opinion, always had an electric arm, always threw really, really hard, but he was very straight at the time, and he just needed to learn how to manipulate the ball a little bit. And with the coaching and everybody, they did such a good job. But there's a guy, I mean, perfect example of makeup. I mean, Sir Anthony. I mean, Sir Anthony's an unbelievable guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the type of guy you want your daughter to marry. So, he's just a good kid, and we're just really fortunate to have him.
Yeah, he was here in 2016, and then in 2021 he comes back to rehab, and I hadn't seen him in 5 years. I'm in the clubhouse. He walks in the locker room immediately. Like, we make eye contact. Remembered. Kemp comes over, says, "How you doing?" And we just kind of BS for a few. Great guy, and a lot of guys wouldn't do that and wouldn't remember, but no, he did. It was he's a really good guy. I do want to ask you about Sixto, because I've been here for 15 years. The two players that I would say, just from like an electricity standpoint or in a class by themselves, were Painter and Sixto. Right. And I know people kind of forget about Sixto because he's gotten hurt and obviously got traded. And what happened to him with the injuries is obviously unfortunate. But man, he was filthy, and just every day when he pitched, there was an event. And I know he was kind of an under the radar. There was a story, right? Like he was a shortstop, and then you needed him to throw to a catcher that you were scouting. There's some truth to that one?
Yeah, this is the story. First of all, one of our scouts was dating his sister, but that was the first one. But we brought him in because we were working out a Cuban guy, and we brought him to pitch to the Cuban guy. So I couldn't get there that day. So I sent Bart Braun in to see him, the Cuban guy.
Right.
And Bart, God rest his soul, because I love that guy. I don't know if you ever had the privilege of meeting him.
I did.
Unbelievable scout. I mean, I learned so much from Bart. But Bart called. I sent him over there to the tryout, and a couple of scouts are there, and they needed a guy to pitch. So they brought, obviously, our scout was dating his sister. They needed another guy. He was a shortstop. He got on the mound. So Bart goes to me, "Forget about the Cuban guy." He goes, "I got a guy here." So I said, "How much you want?" He goes, "Give me 35 grand. We could sign this guy right now." I said, "Sign him." And he signed him. So I want to give the credit to Bart Braun for signing him. And then when I saw him pitch, I was like, what the hell? 35 grand. Anyway, long story short, that's how things happen. You get lucky, and I just feel bad that he got hurt because he is a good kid,
How does a guy like that slip through the cracks?
You know why? Because we're signing kids so early. To me, it's almost a time period where you have to be there, when they're breaking. Like, I saw a kid yesterday. The kid has a lot of ability, but he's so weak. He's so young that how much can you really give? Like, how much can you do to, give that guy money? Not give him money now. Obviously, you don't sign him, but it's just, I think that's why the international market is so difficult, because you're not scouting 1 year. Right. You have to be there you literally have to be there when they break. And especially the pitchers, you know what I mean? Because pitchers are weird. Many pitchers don't get their velo till later in life. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I mean, look at Luis Garcia. I signed him out of a tryout camp. Did he pitch for you guys at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I think
no. Edgar Garcia.
No, Luis Garcia, the one that's in the big leagues with the Padres. Remember? I don't know if you know.
No, he never played here.
Oh, never played. But anyway, he was a guy. He pitched for the Newark Bears and got cut from the Newark Bears. So a guy called me, said he's throwing really, really hard. He was cutting hair for a living. I went over and took a look at him. Charlie Manuel was the manager of the team. We were watching these big league guys in the bullpen. Anyway, he came in. I called him up. I said, fly down to Tampa. And he came in through a couple of bullpens, and he went from rookie ball to the big leagues in 1 year. You know what I mean? It's just sometimes they figure it out. A lot of guys figure it out. I think we're trying. I think the time period with which we're seeing these players, sometimes they're just too young to, really, their ceiling where they're going to be and all that stuff. I really truly believe that.
Yeah. I heard, I'm not going to ask you about a million guys. I heard good things about William Bergoya, Starling Caba, and Eduardo Tait. Tait? Is that how you pronounce it? Forgive me if
Yeah.
I'm Tait. Yeah.
You're picking up the three best guy. Yeah. Tait's three. Caba's an electric shortstop who can hit. He runs really well. He's a good player. Bergoya's got some of the best bat to ball skills that I've ever seen on a player. You know what I mean? His other tools are good, but the bat is just like, he doesn't strike out much. He puts the ball in play.
And you can't teach that.
That's the thing. You're right. I think we try to,
Yeah.
dream on guys, but
like a guy can always get a little faster. He can get a little stronger, but you can't. The hand-eye coordination at that elite level, you either have it or you don't.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Tait was like a guy that was. It's kind of weird story in Panama. He was kind of a chunkier guy, kind of just kind of some baby fat on him. When we saw him, he always raked. He raked. I mean, literally could hit. And now he just blew up and became taller, stronger, and he's a guy. He's really a guy. He's going to be a good one. Hopefully, I'm praying to God. Just hoping.
Yeah. When you reflect back on your career, I'm still going, obviously, but what stands out and what do you look back on? What are some of the fond memories that you have looking back over the last 35 years?
I think it's just been like such a great. The Phillies gave me an opportunity to go out and kind of do my thing, and I've been all over the world, Japan, Korea, Taiwan. It's a shame that we just haven't been able to dip into the Pacific Rim market as much as we like. We've been on all the guys. We've done our homework. It's just, how it is. I mean,
sure.
They all want to go to I don't know if they want to just go, but we did our due diligence.
You got Lee, who
I got
traded,
Lee.
but that was a good one. And you got Pond.
Yeah, Pond, right. That's a good one. Yeah. You make me feel good about that.
There you go.
Yeah. But we've spent so much time going out there and, basically thinking about some of the big leaguers that have come out, like Kuroda, we put a big offer on him. We offered him $36 million. He signed for 44. But anyway, I'm talking about just going around the world and seeing all the players and getting to know and I've been really fortunate because, we grew up in a tough neighborhood in the Bronx, and, I kind of could relate to the kids in the Dominican and Venezuela that were poor. Obviously I wasn't as poor as that, but, I always learned to appreciate, when I see these kids. God has blessed me to be able to see that, so I never forget the type of appreciation I have for what these kids go through to try to get to the big leagues. There's not a lot of, forward movement in their career other than maybe being an athlete or something like that. And what the Phillies have done by putting education for all these kids. I mean, we had 9 guys graduate on Monday.
Yeah, that's great.
9 guys graduate. Yeah. So, I know they have a chance. And, Middleton and Dave and Georgie, and Sam and everybody, it's been really, really. So, I mean, like I said, I've been really, really blessed. But, I think, I fly down there all the time, and I come home and I look at all the people that I grew up. I live on Long Island, and we live down in Jersey. You don't get a chance to see, the poverty that I see all the time. And sometimes, if you don't see it enough, you forget it. And I really like, it humbles me to be appreciative of the fact that I'm able to see that all the time and appreciate what I got.
How many trips will you make there in a year?
Oh, a lot. I'll probably go to Dominican at least 20 times a year, maybe more. Mexico, I go there 5, 6. Just a second. I got to go 5, 6 times a year. Japan, Korea, Taiwan, I'm there at least 3, 4 times a year. But like Venezuela, I just came back. I'm going next week. Now I got a visa to go there. For a while, I couldn't go there. So because they weren't giving out visas to go there. But Colombia, yeah. So do at least 40 international trips a year.
And then last question: are you also the Long Island scout? Phillies have had a bunch of
Yeah,
guys from Long
yeah,
Island over the years. Nick Fanny, Ben Brown, Logan O'Hoppe. Who am I missing?
yeah. You got
Willie Carmona, Vito
yeah,
Friscia. Yeah.
fresh shot. Yeah, you got them all. Yeah, yeah. One thing I run a trip to the Dominican. Actually, going to do it next month in February, and all those kids came on my trip. And I get to know them. Like we were very fortunate to get Logan O'Hoppe. He came on my trip to the DR 4 years in a row, and
Like when he was in high school?
when he was in high school at St. John the Baptist, and that's why when we got to that a little bit later on, I was like, Johnny, can we take this guy? Let's take this guy. This guy's going to be okay. So we get kind of lucky. And Ben Brown, I mean, come on, 32nd round. And, so I kind of get Alex Agostino up there and Tom Downey. And we kind of have that area, this area up here, we know all the players and we get to see him a lot. Now, kind of passing along to Brian Barber. Hopefully he, signs a couple of the guys. But, yeah, we had a lot of guys. It's a shame what happened to Corey Phelan. He never got a chance to come up to you. But what a wonderful kid. I know him, I know his family, I knew him so much. But yeah, there's been quite a few guys. I'm trying to think. I think there was one more guy. Kyle Young. You never.
Oh, Kyle Young. Yeah. Of course.
Did he pitch for you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
He was good, man. I can't believe
he was good.
He got
6'10". I know. Well, Logan and Ben, I mean, they're all those guys, they're all top class, great guys. Like Logan, I met his parents a few times. They're just super nice. And you could see, he's a great guy, and so is Ben, and so is Vito. Like it was a really good group of guys. Nick Fanny, I met his dad a few times. I called both of his no-hit. He threw 2 no-hitters, so I called both of them that year, and it was a shame he kept got hurt too. But yeah, it's a great group of guys.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll keep streaming them in there. Well, at least we got one. We got a good, we got Marsh for O'Hoppe, which was a great trade.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, Sal, thanks for a few minutes. I kept you longer than I said, but it was a lot of fun. And let me know when you want to come out to a BlueClaws game this year. We'd love to see you.
Greg, love to have. Hey, listen, it's always great seeing you. And I know I like to talk a lot, but
me too.
I love doing this.
Yeah, sounds good. Come on down. We'll find a good. There's a couple good Italian restaurants we'll go to.
Fantastic. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.